The rain hammered the awning above us like gunfire, but it was nothing compared to the shot Wesley had just fired straight into my chest. "Your mother's the reason my family lost everything," he spat, his voice cracking like thunder over the Hudson, eyes wild with a hatred I'd never seen in them before. I staggered back against the brick wall of that dingy Brooklyn dive bar, the world tilting as the man I'd started to love turned into the ghost of my worst nightmare. I'm Cameron Hayes, 26 years old, scraping by as a freelance graphic designer in the shadow of my mother's empire. She built Hayes Legal from nothing, a scrappy firm in Midtown that clawed its way to defending Wall Street titans against their own greed. Mom was my hero, the single parent who'd raised me in a cramped Queens apartment after Dad bailed when I was 5. She worked nights, came home smelling like coffee and printer ink, and still found time to cheer at my high school art shows. But heroes cast long shadows, and lately, hers had started to swallow me whole. It began 3 months ago, on a sweltering July afternoon in Washington Square Park. I was sketching the archway, lost in the swirl of tourists and street performers, when he sat down on the bench beside me. Wesley Grant, tall, with that effortless athlete's build from his college lacrosse days, dark hair falling just so over hazel eyes that seemed to hold secrets like storm clouds. He was 28, a consultant from Chicago, or so he said, nursing a black coffee and pretending to read a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby. "You ever feel like Fitzgerald got it wrong?" he asked, not looking up. "That the green light's just a trap, pulling you towards something that'll burn you alive?" I laughed, closing my sketchbook. "Every damn day. Name's Cameron. You, Wesley." His smile was slow, like honey over gravel, and it hooked me right there. We talked for hours, about the city's relentless pulse, the ache of chasing dreams in a place that chews them up. He bought me a falafel from a vendor, and by sunset we were wandering the village, sharing stories over cheap beer at a hole in the wall on Bleecker. He confessed he'd moved east after a bad breakup, some ex who couldn't handle his intensity. I admitted I was still figuring out the whole gay thing in a family that loved me but didn't quite get it. Mom knew, of course. She'd hugged me tight the night I told her, whispering, "You're my son, Cam. That's all that matters." But Wesley? He listened like I was the only voice in the room, his hand brushing mine under the table, sending sparks up my arm. From there, it snowballed. Coffee dates turned to late-night walks along the East River, where we'd watch ferries slice through the water like knives through butter. He opened up about his fractured family. His dad, a steelworker who drunk himself into an early grave after the mills shut down in the Rust Belt collapse of the 80s. His mom, clinging to faded Polaroids, blaming corporate sharks for their slide into poverty. Wesley had clawed his way through community college on scholarships, landed a gig in corporate investigations, but there was always this undercurrent of bitterness, like acid etching glass. "People like that, they step on folks like us to climb higher," he'd say, fists clenched. I'd nod, thinking of Mom's long hours, her warnings about rivals circling like vultures. I didn't question it when he started asking about her. Subtle at first, "Your mom's firm sounds intense. Ever worry about the enemies she makes?" I'd shrug it off, proud to vent. Hayes Legal was under fire, whispers of embezzlement in a high-profile merger case. Leaked emails painting Mom as the puppet master pulling strings to bury a whistleblower. The press was savage. Tabloids dubbed her the Iron Widow, dredging up Dad's abandonment like it explained her ruthlessness. Wesley would hold me after those calls, his arms a fortress. "She's tough, Cam, but you're tougher for standing by her." One night, in my tiny loft in Williamsburg, exposed brick and IKEA regrets, we crossed the line from friends to something electric. Not rushed, not desperate. Just a slow unraveling on my thrift store couch, his lips tasting like mint and vulnerability, my hands tracing the scars on his knuckles from old fights. It was tender, the kind of intimacy that makes you believe in second chances. Afterward, tangled in sheets, he murmured against my neck, "I could get used to this. To you." My heart swelled, foolish and full. For the first time since college flings that fizzled fast, I let myself imagine a future. Us, against the city's chaos. But cracks spiderwebbed in. Mom grew distant, her eyes shadowed by boardroom battles. "Cam, honey, steer clear of new friends right now," she'd say over hurried brunches at Sarabeth's. Trouble's brewing. I brushed it off as paranoia, but Wesley's questions sharpened. He wanted details on her schedule, her key clients, the merger with Vanguard Tech, the one drowning in scandal. "Just curious." He'd laugh, but his gaze lingered too long on my phone when it buzzed with her texts. The betrayal hit like a freight train on that rainy October night. We'd met at the Rusty Nail, a dive-in bed-stewie where the jukebox played Springsteen on loop and the air smelled of stale peanuts and regret. I was late, dodging puddles from a cab, when I pushed through the door and saw him at our corner booth. Not alone. A slick-suited guy in his 40s slid an envelope across the table. His voice a low hiss. "Grant, you better deliver. The firm's payout hinges on those docs proving Hayes cooked the books. Get close to the kid. He'll crack her open." Wesley's face was stone, but his eyes, God, those eyes, flicked to me as I froze in the doorway. The suited man vanished into the crowd like smoke, and Wesley bolted up, envelope clutched in his fist. "Cam, wait. It's not." We spilled out into the alley, the downpour turning the world to a blurred watercolor. He shoved the envelope at me, soaked through, photos spilling out. Grainy shots of Mom in a dimly lit office, handing cash to a shadowy figure. Forged? Staged? My stomach churned. "What the hell is this?" I roared, shoving him back. Rain lashed my face, mixing with hot tears I hadn't meant to shed. "Your mother ruined my family," he shouted over the storm, voice raw. Vanguard wasn't just a merger, it was a takeover. Hayes legal buried evidence that my uncle's firm was the whistleblower. They got crushed, foreclosed, my mom evicted. I was 12, Cam, watching her pack our lives into trash bags because sharks like your mom swam faster. His chest heaved, hazel eyes fracturing with pain. "They hired me to get intel to expose her. I was supposed to seduce you, flip you against her. But I couldn't. Not after." "After what?" I snarled, fists balled, the alley closing in like a cage. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating his drenched shirt clinging to his frame. The vulnerability I'd mistaken for love now twisted into a weapon. "After you," he whispered, stepping closer, voice breaking. "The first time you smiled at me in that park, something shifted. I told myself it was strategy, get in deep, play the long game. But every laugh, every touch, gutted me. I fell, Cam, hard. And then I started digging deeper, for real this time. Those photos? Fakes. Planted by Vanguard CEO Harlan Crow to cover his own ass. Your mom's been fighting him blind, taking the heat to protect her team. She's innocent. She's like my mom, fighting for scraps in a rigged game." The words hung there, heavier than the rain. Betrayal clawed my throat, but beneath it, a flicker. Truth? I'd seen Mom's exhaustion, the way she'd stare at old photos of us, whispering apologies to the air. She'd never told me the full story, shielding me like always. And Wesley, his face, stripped bare, wasn't the liar's mask I'd imagined. It was the boy from the Rust Belt, carrying ghosts heavier than mine. "Why confess now?" I demanded, voice hoarse, backing against the cold brick. "Scared I'd find out first?" He laughed, bitter and broken, raking hands through his hair. "Because I can't lie to you anymore. Not when every second without you feels like drowning. I quit the job this morning. Handed Crow the evidence, real evidence, proving he framed her. It's over. But us. If there's an us left." He reached out, tentative, fingers grazing my jaw. I flinched but didn't pull away. The storm raged, mirroring the war inside me. Fury at the deception. Ache for the man who'd pierced my armor. Terror that love could be this fragile. This American dream fragile. Built on hustle and heartbreak. We stood there, drenched and defiant. As sirens wailed in the distance, the city's indifferent heartbeat. "You destroyed me," I said finally, my hand covering his, holding it there against my skin. "But maybe we rebuild together." The climax came 2 weeks later, in the fluorescent glare of a federal courtroom in Foley Square. Mom's trial, accelerated by Wesley's leaked files, unraveled like a bad knit. Crow took the stand, sweating under cross-examination, his empire crumbling as prosecutors paraded emails, wire transfers, the whole rotten core. Mom, poised in her navy suit, didn't gloat when the gavel fell in her favor. She just squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes, tired, triumphant, meeting Wesley's across the gallery. He'd testified that morning, voice steady as he laid bare his uncle's story, the human cost of corporate greed. It wasn't revenge, he told the judge. It was justice, for all of us. Afterward, in the chaos of reporters and relieved hugs, Mom pulled him aside. You could have buried us, she said softly, her lawyer's edge softened by gratitude. Why didn't you? Wesley glanced at me, his smile tentative, real. Because burying him would have buried me too. She nodded, fierce and maternal. Then welcome to the family, kid. We Hayeses don't do half measures. That night, under a rare clear November sky, Wesley and I walked the high line, the city lights sprawling like a promise below. No grand gestures, just his hand in mine, the weight of truth lighter now. We talked it out in stolen hours. The lies he'd told, the fears I'd harbored, the way love sneaks up like fog off the river, blurring lines until you can't tell where you end and it begins. Betrayal had scarred us, but it hadn't broken us. Instead, it forged something human, flawed, forgiving, alive with the grit of second acts. Mom's firm thrived, but she scaled back, mentoring young lawyers from the neighborhoods she'd once overlooked. Wesley started a nonprofit, digging into corporate underbellies for the little guys, his rust-belt roots fueling a fire that warmed instead of burned. And me? I designed their logo, simple lines, bold colors, a bridge spanning divides. As we paused at the rail, his head on my shoulder, I thought of that rainy alley, the hook that nearly ended us. You know, I murmured, Fitzgerald might have been wrong. He tilted his face up, eyes soft in the glow. Yeah, and sometimes, it's the storm that clears the way. In America, where dreams die hard and love fights dirtier, we'd learned the truth. Destruction isn't the end. It's the crack where the light gets in. And damn if we weren't shining now.